Commissioner Adam Silver released this statement tonight. I just read a transcript of Donald Sterling's interview with Anderson Cooper, and while Magic Johnson doesn't need me to, I feel compelled on behalf of the NBA family to apologize that he continues to be dragged into this situation and be degraded by such a malicious and personal attack. The NBA Board of Governors is continuing with this process to remove Mr. Sterling as expeditiously as possible. Kenny, when you listen to the interview and you listen to these clips, I mean...
Well, yeah, what do you hear? Well,
I mean...
I just think that, you know, obviously his credibility is gone in terms of what he has to say. So you kind of listen to it with a grain of salt. But the other thing is, you know, Charles and I were talking about earlier, is just that he has an interesting way of apologizing. And the other part of that is, you know, I don't know if he really understands the ramifications or the consequences that come with what he said, or understand the consequences or the ramifications of his actions or how they were affecting people for those 35 years. I think he doesn't have a grasp on that, which is unfortunate, you know, that someone can't understand that, you know, and he said he paid for Magic Johnson. I pray for him to get an understanding of what the hurt and the actual ramifications could have been. And he's using Magic Johnson now as a deflection to the actual statements that he was engaged in, which has nothing to do with the two. Regardless of what he feels about Magic Johnson or how he feels about it, it's a deflection of what the comments that got him in trouble, got him to lose his franchise, and got him to be ostracized in a lot of areas. Had nothing to do with Magic Johnson. It had to do with the comments that did not pertain to Magic.
I think he might be going for the insanity plea, Kenny. I mean, listen, this is getting crazy, Ernie.
It is.
I mean, like, this is it's not even a bad soap opera. You're like, wow. Listen, Magic Johnson has done some amazing things for the black community around the country. That's self-explanatory. Magic Johnson, I hope to emulate him in some of my business ventures in the black community. He's given them economic opportunity. He's given them jobs. I will always be, and we're biased, he worked with us. And I used to always pick his brain about giving minorities, whether you're a female, Hispanic, or black. I think anytime you're successful, your job is to bring more people along on the train. And Magic Johnson, that goes without saying. I don't comment on anybody's personal life, but Donald Sterling, man, I feel bad for the NBA because we had amazing playoffs. You got a team that's in just have to deal with this stuff. They got to deal with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and those guys. And you turn on the television, nobody's talking about what an amazing series that is. They're talking about Donald Sterling and his wife on competing networks. And if he has any goodness in his heart, and I don't know if he does, I ain't gonna lie, he should say, you know what, the NBA's been great to me. Let me just sell the team so we as a league, because it sucks, Ernie. It sucks for me, Shaq, and Kenny. And I can tell, Ernie, I always tell people, and Kenny and Shaq can attest, Ernie, you might be the nicest guy in the world. You might be the nicest guy in the world. And when you asked Kenny that question, you were like flabbergasted.
Where do you go? I mean, to hear his rambling answers on these, and at one point it's, you know, he's great, he's a great guy, he does, but he does, it doesn't make any sense that where it's all going. And my question to you guys, when he asked for forgiveness, can you forgive Donald Sterling for what he said?
Well, first of all, it took him too long to apologize.
Can you forgive him? We're
all from the hood. You can't stab or shoot somebody and then come apologize 4 weeks later. We don't forgive you. Second of all, this guy's 81 years old. This isn't new. It's been documented that he's been a racist. You know, a lot of people have said he has been a racist. He's stuck in his ways. So he gives us the pseudo apology. It goes back on a personal.
I agree with what you're saying, a lot of things, but I do have forgiveness, and I have empathy.
But is the apology real? I mean, that's what Ernie's asking.
However, I would never allow him to be in a position to affect, or if I had any say, I would never have him in a position to affect others.
Because I think,
but I mean, for me.
But do you believe his apology?
It's not for me to believe because I believe what he said the first time. So I already know who he is.
But you
I don't have to believe his.
You know how I could forgive him, to be honest with you? If he said, hey, you know what? I screwed this up. He's never said that it's my fault. I screwed this up. I could forgive him if he said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take the NBA through some long, protracted legal case.
And he did say that in the interview. But he said, look, if the other owners say no, this is time, I could sue them. They could take me to court. But what would that do?
But that's my point.
Maybe that is the direction he.
I could, because we need to get past this as a league.
Yeah.
And I could forgive him. And listen, he's 80 years old. He can go and live the rest of his life. But to have this protracted, and his wife coming out saying she's going to fight for half of the team, I can't forgive that, bringing all this bad vibe to the NBA, because it really is not going to hit the head until next season, to be honest with you. If he still owns the team once training camp starts, then I think we as players, us three ex-players, we'd have a real problem playing for his team.
Yeah.
Or I would.
But the one thing about forgiveness is, Ernie, is like, it sounds like maybe a long, drawn-out song, but, that you probably heard on the radio, but, you can't fight hate with hate. It doesn't work. So you have to educate, you have to love, and you have to educate. And in that education, it's also a self-education, meaning knowing that you will never put someone like this who has not learned in a position like this, but you can't hate him.
Yeah.
You just, because hate doesn't conquer hate. Only thing that I've learned is in some type of sympathy and love that conquers hate.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you know the distinction, that forgiving is not condoning.
Forgetting.
Yeah, forgiving. Well, forgiving is not condoning.
Yeah.
So because you forgive is not like, oh, you think it's okay. No, but because forgiveness is the next step, so that this bitterness you don't carry around. And I looked at this today too, and I'll let you get there, Charles. And I was just looking at stories of people who have undergone or gone through tragedy. You have people who have lost kids to drunk drivers, and forgiven those people behind the wheel because they just couldn't carry that around anymore, and just had to let it go. And I think that's the step of
when
forgiveness.
you don't let go, Ernie, it allows someone to have a power over you that you don't.
But Ernie,
I would never allow Donald Sterling to have a power over me. But
Barney, I got to say this: I cannot forgive him until he's out of the picture. And it's because, number one, we're going to have to talk about it.
Oh, it's a process.
It's a process. But like I say, first of all, it doesn't matter. He has no significance in my life whatsoever. I don't wish ill will toward him because I just don't do that. I do agree with Kenny. But I do say this. We can't get past this. We cannot get, as a TNT family or as former NBA players and these players in the league today, we cannot get past this as long as Donald Sterling owns that team.
Until it's resolved.
Yes.
Okay. Magic, by the way, is supposed to be on Anderson Cooper on Tuesday. He tweeted tonight, I'd rather be talking about these great NBA playoffs than Donald Sterling's interview. And also, this is why I love the NBA playoffs, because you get to see something that's truly unbelievable, like LeBron's performance tonight. The story continues, unfortunately.
I guess we never heard of Magic.